Hi, I'm Karoliną Zbytniewską from EURACTIV Poland. Welcome to the EURACTIV European Parliament interview series. My guest today is Marie Areną, chair at the Subcommittee on Human Rights at the European Parliament. Welcome.
Thank you.
So let's look into the human rights around the world. The situation doesn't look really bright because human rights are being violated right at EU's doorstep, in Turkey and Syria, in Russia, in Ukraine. What European Union does about it, and what more can it do?
In fact, we have different tools in Europe to work on human rights. You can have diplomatic tools, for example. And so we have, for example, here in the European Parliament resolution saying that we are not agree with some attitude coming from some governments, and we name and shame them in the European Parliament. It's a kind of pressure, international pressure, that we can make on some governments not respecting human rights. But we have also different tools. For example, the Sakharov Prize is to make the light on some people, some defenders on human rights on a specific issue. And this is the second tool that you have to do, and we protect these defenders. And the other is also to ask for sanctions, for example. And so, for example, we have in the relationship between Europe and Russia, we took the sanctions on the annexion of Crimea. So you have different rank of tools from the statement to the sanctions that we can have here in the European level.
But do the soft tools, like all the European Parliament resolutions or the Sakharov Prize and also the nominees for the prize, are they really exerting real pressure? Have you noticed, traced real reactions on the side of, for example, governments that are breaching human rights versus their own societies?
Sometimes yes, sometimes not. You have some governments really sensitive to the international image that they have. And it's important for them, for example, for the investment that they can have in their country, showing that they are respecting the international standards when it comes to human rights. So sometimes it works. Sometimes we have to use other tools as sanctions, targeted sanctions for people, banning the visa ban, for example. So it depends really the relationship that you have with the country, but also the image that the country wants to have at international level.
So maybe let's look for a moment into this year's Sakharov Prize finalists. There are actually 5 of them, but 3 of them are Brazilian. Can you tell us more about the choices and why these people, not the others?
In fact, it's very difficult to make a choice on the Sakharov Prize because, you know, when you are human rights defenders, you are risking your life in some country, you are risking for your freedom. A lot of Sakharov Prize are in jail, and so it's really something hard to choose between one or another. So for the moment we have a short list on 3 different issues. The first one is the Amazon, and how is it possible to defend climate, to defend human rights and environment. And you have a lot of people being killed just because they are defending the planet, the earth. And so it's really important to show that
one of the nominees has been killed,
exactly.
Marie Franco.
Exactly. So Marie Franco is one of these working as human rights defenders, and she has been killed because of this. The second issue is the question of Uyghur in China. It's a question of minorities, and you have a man who is defending the conciliation between population, and he's in jail because of that. And the third one is about female mutilation. And we are now in the 21st century, and we are living in a world where female are mutilated because they are just female. And so everybody, the three issues are really important, but we have to choose one of these, and we don't know for the moment. But whatever the choice coming from the Parliament, they are human rights defenders, and we have to protect them. And we also have to work on how is it possible to defend these different issues in the world.
I will just add to explain that there are 200 million of women living around the world that has been mutilated.
Yeah.
And 3 million women a year face this risk.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we are talking about the world, and you are the chair of the subcommittee on human rights. What about human rights within Europe? Human rights connected to the democratic life of the countries like Poland, like Hungary. What about the unrecognized minority of Macedonians living in Greece? What about slave labor, for example, in Italy, that we discussed earlier? Why European Union, why your committee is looking outside of Europe? Maybe we should also focus on our own member states.
Exactly. It's difficult to promote human rights in the international level when we are not respecting human rights in our own house, European one. It is why we have the Article 7 procedure against some member states. It is not against people living in these states. It is to protect them, so to protect Polish people, to protect Hungarian people, to be sure that they will be defended in the human rights sector. And so the Article 7 procedure to make these countries respecting the fundamental rights of Europe is really something really important for people, for citizens living in Europe, but also to show that we can defend human rights at the international level. So it is why we have this procedure on these two countries, Poland and Hungary. But we also have to work on the implementing of human rights in this country, and we can see that if we are not controlling the respect of human rights in some countries of Europe, some countries are not respecting it. For example, the slavery in some country, we have migrant people working in some areas, in some sectors, not being protected at all. So we have to be very cautious about that. We have to protect people when they are in the European territory, because it's the fundamental right of Europe and it is in the treaty. If we are not respecting it, the treaty is the law of Europe, is the highest law of Europe. If we are not respecting it, it is really a problem, because what about Europe if we don't respect the law of Europe?
Following up on this issue, this year United Nations recognized abortion as a human right, while it is banned in Malta and heavily restricted in Cyprus and Poland. In Poland it's practically impossible at the moment to do abortion legally. How would you address this issue as the chair of the Human Rights Committee?
In fact, I think that the Parliament has to discuss about that, because abortion is a very sensitive issue when it comes to discuss it in the European Parliament, because it is seen as a moral issue. And for me, the right to abortion legally is a question of health. It's a question of protecting people not to be in danger. And so we have to say that health is a right for everybody in Europe. It's a fundamental right to have access to health in Europe. And so a part of people in Europe, because they want to have right to abortion, they have not access to health. It is not only in countries as Poland or as Malta, it is also in countries where abortion is legally permitted, but where it is not organized because of the objection of conscience. And for example, we have in Italy some regions of Italy where it is not possible to have access, even if it is legally admitted in Italy. You have no access to abortion just because you have this objection of conscience from a medical system. And so here we have also to work at the European level to guarantee that women have access to their health and to their dignity for the abortion.
Yeah, sometimes it's problematic either in this issue or about the issue that you mentioned before, the Article 7 procedure on the rule of law. Actually, sometimes European Union's actions are counterproductive in the end because they antagonize the governments of these countries that may use this as an argument to show that this Brussels is attacking our sovereignty. Mm-hmm. How to balance the two, the impact and the cause?
You know, when a country decides to be part of Europe, you have to show a long list of standards, and you have to show that you are committed to respect these standards. And these standards are important to protect people. It is not to make this trouble to these people. Is just to protect them, for example, as consumer, to be sure that what they are consuming is at the high level standards, to protect them as workers' rights, for example, not to be slave in a company, so it's important, to protect them as free movement, so they have the free movement in Europe, and it's important to get this free movement for all these European citizens. So it is not against people, Europe is for people. And we have to convince people that we are working on their rights. And when we are asking countries to respect these standards, it is not against people, it is for people. And I was in Poland with all these people being in the street for abortion rights. And they were just asking us to defend them as Polish people. And they were very happy to see that Europe is taking care of them about these abortion rights. So I think it's important to show that Europe is for people, not to oblige them to do something, but to guarantee that they have rights, the same rights as Polish or as Spanish or as Italian. We are all citizens of Europe, so we have to share the same rights for all European citizens.
Thank you very much. A beautiful ending of our interview. Our guest today is Marie Areną. Thank you very much.
Thank you.